Does Christian Yelich have another good season left for us in 2026? And is Jacob Misiorowski legit? We'll talk those names and more as we break down the Brewers on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominick Martino, riding solo today, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube and you haven't already, please make sure you hit that little bell below. It's going to subscribe you to the channel and give you notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if listening on the audio side of things, once again, please make sure you're subscribed. And if you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you do that for us as well. And, guys, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And, mentioned up top, we're doing the Brewers today, a little review, preview type of ordeal, always from a fantasy baseball perspective. Of course, Yelich, another good season in the books for him in 2025, but does he have enough left to, do it again in 2026? We'll break him down. We'll break down the young stud Jackson Chourio. Where should we be drafting him? Do we believe in, the power output in the second half from Brice Turang? Where should we be drafting William Contreras? A little bit of a down year. Freddy Peralta, up year, ace. Do we believe in it? Should he be taken as an ace in 2026? The Miz, my boy, Jacob Misiorowski, is he legit? Is he not? We'll break him down. If there's time, we might get to a little Brandon Woodruff talk, even though he's a free agent. He did pitch for the Brewers in 2025. And then who is, top prospect? Jesus Mod. Or Made. I'm not exactly sure how they say it, but, we'll get into all of these names on today's action-packed episode, and we'll start up at the top. We always do bats first, then we'll do arms, and then we will get into prospects, and we're starting with Christian Yelich. Like I said, another good year in the books. It's cool to see Yelich bounce back, from injury a few years ago. Wasn't sure with all the back issues that Yelich had over the past, seasons, if he would be able to, continue hitting well, because he had a very good, strong showing, the past couple of years, but honestly took it to another level this year. Especially that home run power got up to 29 bombs for Yelich this season. That was over 150 games, 573 at-bats, 88 runs, 21 doubles, 103 RBI, 16 steals, 64 walks to 167 strikeouts, and a 264 batting average. Before injury in 2024, Yelich looked like he was on somewhat of a similar pace. And then even in 2023, Yelich, the home runs wouldn't have been at 29, but, everything else was looking pretty good for him as well, especially the 106 runs in 144 games. So Yelich has been pretty solid the last 3 years. Did have, a few down years from 2020 to 2022. But before that, Yelich was, MVP candidate. Actually did win an MVP in 2018, and was really, really good. So it's cool to see at 33 years old, Yelich, have another good season. The underlying stuff doesn't necessarily back everything that Yelich does, but you kind of see. You kind of still squint at it and you see like, okay, there's some, reality to this. I believe Yelich still could be a 20-plus home run guy with good counting stats in this good Milwaukee team. Even, the 16 steals, I'm saying, yeah, it's pretty legit. He's in the 71st percentile sprint speed, so you love to see that from an older guy like Yelich. The only thing I don't love is the underlying stuff for batting average. Did say that Yelich should be closer to a 250 hitter than the 264 batting average we saw last year. That's going to be that's really going to affect him. If the batting average can't stay closer to 270, or, Yelich is a career 285 guy and hit 315 in 2024, hit 278 in 2023. So I do think the high batting average is something that he can, maintain, over a course of 150 games like he did, this past season. So with Yelich, I'm buying that he can still be pretty good. I'll break out my way too early 2026 rankings. I'll let you guys know where I got Yelich. I have Yelich right now as outfielder number 19. I could see that moving maybe a little bit lower, but I do think outfield is going to be a tough position. I do think outfield is going to be very, very tricky to navigate in 2026. I see Yelich as more as a stabilizer, in the sense of, hey, I know he's going to be good while he's out there. There's always a chance of injury with Yelich. Did miss time in 2024, as I mentioned. Has a history of back issues, struggled with them, in 2021. So it's really going to be interesting to see where, Yelich gets drafted. I think he's safe mid-end outfielder number 2. I kind of like him there. And then you kind of, like I said, he is safe as far as when he's healthy, he's going to be good. But the sense of, is he going to be out there for a full season? TBD. I kind of want to see where Yelich is taken. I might have a share or two. I'm not against it by any means at all. Let's move on. We go from a veteran outfielder to a young gun. Let's talk a little bit about Jackson Chourio. Love me some Jackson Chourio. Only 21 years old this past season. And I mean, if you kind of just look at the numbers at base value, you're like, he didn't really take too much of a step forward from, rookie season to sophomore season. But then again, he played, it was 17 less games. And he still had the same amount of home runs, 1 less RBI, 1 less steal. Batting average was about the same. He went from 275 in 2024 to a 270 batting average in 2025. Also had 8 more runs. I think if we get any sort of discount on Jackson Chourio, we buy in. I think this kid's going to be an absolute stud. I think he has potential to be one of the best bats in the game. The underlying stuff doesn't really, back everything I'm saying. But, I love the kid passes the eye test on a lot of stuff. He does have power in the bat. He's super fast. The speed's, backed by underlying stuff. Sprint speed is in the 93rd percentile, which means he's super fast, very, very quick. Power, I think he could tap into 30 home runs, maybe not as a 22-year-old, but I think it's something that's possible. He's 6 foot, 204. He's got some muscle on the frame. As he grows a little bit older, maybe he gets a little bit stronger as well. And, the games played, if he, stays healthy and gets up to back up to 150 games, sky's the limit. I currently have Jackson Chourio ranked as my outfielder number 11. I think that's safe. I think he's a very risky outfielder number 1, low-end outfielder number 1. It's just going to be another guy. It's going to be fun to see where he's taken come draft day in 2026, because I think 30-30 is what I'm going to project. I don't think it's the the floor by any means of what I'm what I think for Chourio, but I definitely think 30 bombs, 30 plus steals, even if it's 20, let's temper it. Let's say 25 bombs, 35 steals, 270, 5 batting average. We'll stick with that. 100 runs, 80 RBIs. I don't think that's out of a question for a guy like Jackson Chourio. And yeah, that's definitely an outfielder number 1. But then again, I think there's even room for a bigger, upgrade in the batting average department. The hit tool for Chourio is something that, was very high end, coming up through the minor leagues, even, through his minor league career. And, the power is something I think that he grows into a little bit more as he gets older. So with a kid like this, it's just almost like people want to sit back and maybe the breakout doesn't happen, but I think we're right on the precipice. He has the Jackson Chourio has the prospect pedigree. There's no reason not to love a kid like this and think he can't do it. But before we move on and we get into the Brice Turang talk, was the second half power breakout legit? What do we do with a young studly catcher like William Contreras? We get into the pitchers like Freddy Peralta, who finally had the ace-like season. The Miz, Jacob Misiorowski, and who is top prospect Jesus Ma. Those names and more coming up next. And all right, guys, I want to talk to you about my friends over at Game Time. The NFL is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees. It takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. That made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. Fees are included. Know your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. And guys, I was just on the app not too long ago, and there's amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. And you know what? They also have the zone deals going right now too. So you're going to pick the section and Game Time picks the seats, and you're going to save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets before. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, use that promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. And all right, guys, so we're just jumping right back into it. We're going to move on. We're going to talk some Brice Turang. Brice Turang, somebody that I was, into, coming into the, 2025 season. The price was good on Turang. Second base was a position where, it was really tough. And I had Brice Turang on a couple teams, this past season. He was really, really good. The steals took a big step back, went from 50 steals to 24, but the home runs took a nice step up. Went from 7 home runs to 18. Still played, a lot of games, literally 156 games. Great number there from Brice Turang, 97 runs, 28 doubles, 2 triples, the 18 aforementioned home runs, 18 RBIs, 24 steals, 66 walks, 250 strikeouts, and Turang hit 288. He had that major fall off in the second half of 2024, and Brice Turang, as a 25-year-old, said, hey, that's absolutely not happening, in 2025. I don't know whether it was some strength and conditioning or, whatever it may have been for Turang, but, he really, really, whatever he did in the off seasons paid dividends because he gave us a nice full season, this past year. And if anything, he stepped it up in the second half, like I mentioned. Turang, 93 games in the first half, 6 bombs. 63 games in the second half, 12 bombs. Batting average in the first half of those 93 games, 274. Batting average in the second half over the 63 games, 308. And it's believable as a young player, as a 25-year-old, that he figured something out as far as, the power stroke goes. I don't know if it translates over a full season, and Turang is like a 25 home run kind of guy. I can't make any home runs for that. Can't make any guarantees for that. But Turang's still super fast, 88th percentile sprint speed. Maybe the focus on being able to get to that power did take away from the steals a bit. But I do think Turang is, the kind of guy who could get back up in the 30 steal threshold. So even if it's like a low 20s home run numbers, like a 20-ish home run, 30 steal, 275, 100 run, 80 RBI kind of season for a Turang, that's great. That's going to be awesome at the second base position. As I look at my way too early 2026 rankings, I have Brice Turang as my fifth second baseman, and I think that's going to be fair. Let's take a look at where the fifth second baseman was being taken in 2025, kind of get an idea of where Turang might be going. Around pick 50, which I think is fair. You're kind of looking in fourth round territory there, maybe fifth in some leagues. Kind of depends on where the cookies crumble. But a guy who's going to potentially chip in power. The speed is legit. The batting average is something that, hey, it could take a step back. I don't know if Turang is a close to a 290 guy like he was last season. Even as I look back in the minor leagues, didn't always do great in the batting average department. As he got closer to the bigs, he did. But don't forget, 137 games in the bigs in 2023, it was a 218, and it was a 254 in 2024, even though he did have the big first half. I temper it to around a 275 batting average, but I still think Brice Turang is going to be awesome. Very fun player to own for fantasy. Going to get you, good contributions in multiple different categories. Let's move on. Let's talk about William Contreras. And, fantasy baseball is a game of, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. Was definitely right about not drafting William Contreras high. Because if you paid the price for Contreras, which, I'm going to pull up going into 2025, which was ridiculously high. William Contreras was coming off the board as number one catcher, pick 33 overall. It just wasn't worth it. He played 150 games. He had 89 runs, 28 doubles, 17 bombs, 76 RBIs, 6 steals, and hit 260. The batting average took a tremendous step back. The home runs came down. The RBIs came down. Literally everything took a step back. That's just why you really don't want to invest in catcher early. I think we're going to see the same thing with Cal Raleigh. In 2026, I think he's going to be way overdrafted. And it's just not that I should be comparing Raleigh and Contreras, two different kinds of players. But still, the same concept applies. Was just not drafting a catcher that high because just the value is 99% of the time not there, and they usually take a step back. Catcher is a tough position to play. It does a lot to the body, and wear and tear adds up over time. And I don't foresee William Contreras himself personally. The ADP kind of depends on where it is. Let's leave it at that. Catcher was a very, very good position in 2025. I personally have William Contreras right now as number 3 catcher overall. And that last year was pick 78. I mean, at that point, let's preface it like this. A lot of the times catchers go high. It's usually in industry leagues, big money leagues, those kind of situations. I think a lot of you guys listening, maybe not this time of year, but a lot of, most of our fan base is a lot of guys who play in their home leagues and stuff like that. Or you play with, your friends from work or, family, whoever it may be. If you're playing in a league like that, catchers are usually not going that high. And I might endorse a William Contreras pick at the ADP of like 100. If it's around there, sure, that's fine. Even if it's in the 90s, that's not the worst position. I might not do it there, but I'm not mad at you if you do it there. I'll say this, that Matt and I, we had shares of Cal Raleigh last year. I had Wilson Contreras from the Cardinals in a couple of spots. I had Shea Langoliers in a few spots. Don't get me wrong. I had the Austin Wells, but I did have Ivan Herrera as well. If you're getting William Contreras after pick 80, I'm in. I can see that. That's fine. We can do that. Anything above it, I'm probably not going to do it. I will say this. I think William Contreras' numbers maybe bounce back. I think maybe it's a few more home runs. I think maybe the RBIs bounce back up. I think the batting average goes back up closer to his career 273 mark than the 260 where he was. Maybe there's some value in William Contreras in 2026. Remains to be seen. Like I said, it's really going to be dependent on ADP. let's sneak in Freddy Peralta just because for time sake here. Freddy Peralta, man, so happy for the guy. I've been a big Freddy Peralta fan, dating back to when he was coming up. Bunch of tough years, inconsistent. He finally put it together, for a 30-plus start season, and I love it. 33 starts, 270 ERA, 17 wins, 176 strikeouts, 176 innings, 204 strikeouts, and a 107 whip from, Freddy Peralta. I think it's going to be his career year. I think he winds up being closer to a mid-threes ERA guy, definitely still over the K per 9. Freddy Peralta's career whip is a 113. I think he winds up closer to that as well than the 107. The last year, 2024, it was a 121 whip. But, before that was a 111, 103. Before that, 097. So maybe he does take the whip down, a little bit better. But I don't know if he's going to be able to suppress the runs like he did in 2025. I think a lot of it might have been luck because even the FIP was a 3.64. And I don't know. Love me some Freddy Peralta, but just somebody that I think the ADP might get out of control on. I'll tell you guys real quick where I have Freddy Peralta ranked going into 2026 in my starting pitcher rankings. My way too early starting pitcher rankings. I have Freddy Peralta at SP10. Honestly, I don't even know if he falls any lower than that for me. I keep talking about how I don't like the outlook at outfield for 2026. I think starting pitcher is going to be worse. I think starting pitcher is just going to be the position that I'm going to hate drafting the most in 2026. Just because I feel like the hitting has got caught back up to the pitching. We had, I want to say, like 3-4 years where pitching kind of dominated. It's been turning the other way where, hitting has been dominating. And if, Freddy Peralta is somebody that we know we can trust at least to get good strikeouts, the ERA is not going to kill you. And the whip is going to be pretty good as well. I could see myself having to invest as Freddy Peralta as my SP1, but if I do that, I definitely want to try and grab a few stabilizers as my 2 and 3. Definitely don't want to get risky with those guys as well. But before we move on and we talk about the Miz and why he's awesome, a little Brandon Woodruff talk, Jesus Mate, as well, and then maybe another prospect or two. We'll see how time works out for us. Those names and more. And all right, guys, I need to talk to you about my friends over at FanDuel. And listen, guys, we talk a lot of baseball here, but the NBA is back. And there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets in the same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And we'll throw a quick little bet you guys as well. I'm back in the fantasy basketball game this year as well. Of course, if you don't listen to, my buddy Josh Lloyd over at Locked On Fantasy Basketball, you're doing yourself a disservice. We'll cook something up real quick. Let's do Karl Anthony Towns, man. Been having a good, start here to the season for him. Maybe not the Knicks so much. I love Karl Anthony Towns rebounds, taking those. Points, maybe not so much, but you know what? The blocks, too. He's been throwing up a, block per game. I like that. We could do AR-15, too. Let's talk a little Austin Reeves. We could do the points. We could definitely do the assist. That's something he's been specializing in. Maybe more three-pointers as well. So you're going to do all of that over on the FanDuel app. We're at FanDuel.com. Do that now. And all right, let's keep it going and let's talk about my boy Jacob Misiorowski, the Miz, and why he's awesome, man. Jacob Misiorowski, the big thing with Miz is that, you know what? He originally was projected to be a starting pitcher, projected to be really, really good. Had a down season in the minors. People maybe thought, hey, maybe he's a little bit more of a closer. But then the Miz came back and just really started the season off like a house on fire in the minors, forced the call up from the Brewers and performed, pretty well. We'll do the full season numbers. 14 starts from Misiorowski on the year, 4.36 ERA, 66 innings pitched, 87 strikeouts, and a 1.24 whip. I want to go back and I'm going to look at Shane McClanahan's rookie season because it kind of is almost reminiscent of that. And even a Blake Snell too, rookie season kind of almost reminds me of where they came up. The control wasn't, fantastic. Got beat up a little bit in the terms of, ERA. Am I right here? 3.43 ERA is what McClanahan had in his rookie year, so a little bit lower. I want to check Blake Snell as well. See maybe if I was cooking here at all or not. I thought I was, but maybe I wasn't here. Wow, Blake Snell, that's crazy. Almost the same exact ERA, or was that the same exact ERA? 3.54. So a little bit higher here for Misiorowski. But, a guy who has not pitched a lot of innings at all, in his career, especially, in, the bigs, as this was his literally, first call up to the bigs. He pitched 63 innings in the minors and then 66 in the bigs. So we got up to about 120 in his career. High before that was 97, which was 2024. So I think he got tired more than anything else. But if you watched Jacob Misiorowski pitch at all this year, he's electric. Had multiple double-digit strikeout games. Really has, elite stuff. So I really think the numbers do him a disservice. The xERA, which is expected ERA, it's an underlying stat for, ERA kind of as the ERA indicator, tells you where it should have been rather than where it was, is a 3.33. So you see that 4+ ERA. It's not really indicative of what the results he deserved. Batting average, kind of the same thing as ERA. It's expected batting average against a batting average indicator. Batters were only expected to hit 202 against Misiorowski. He's in the 99th percentile in fastball velocity. He sits at 99 on average, gets up over that easily. The guy's got nasty stuff. The four-seam batters only hit 193 against it. The slider is what needs a little bit of work. It's a really good pitch, but wasn't consistent. Batters did bat 293 against that, and Misiorowski did throw it 24% of the time. Curveball was big and was good. Batters only hit 231 against that, and batters only hit 0.50 against his curveball. Misiorowski's got good stuff, and at 6'7", 6'7", no pun intended, a little pun intended actually. 200 pounds. Kid's elite, got Chris Sale vibes. Depending on ADP, could be one of my big favorite targets of this year. I probably have him ranked too high. I'm going to be honest with you guys right now. I have Misiorowski ranked as my SP25, so that's like a very high-end SP3, a low-end SP2. I think he's going to do big things this year. Another risky starting pitcher, but, let's just see where it goes. We'll touch on Brandon Woodruff a little bit. I don't know where he winds up, and I don't know where the health winds up either. I know he was injured to end the season. I just think Woodruff, I don't think it was a bad injury, too. I think he was predicted to start the season healthy. Woodruff, when he's out there, man, he's one of the best in the game. And I think he proved it last season. Diminished stuff, but still got a great performance. 12 starts, a 3.20 ERA, 64 innings, 83 strikeouts, an 0.9 whip. He's good. Another guy depends on ADP where he goes. If you can get Brandon Woodruff as your SP 4, 5, probably closer to 5, I love that for sure. Woodruff is another guy I probably have ranked too high. I'll be honest with you. Did I throw him in here yet? No, I didn't throw him in my list because I wasn't sure of health. I'll preface it like this. If we know Brandon Woodruff is healthy and in rotation, maybe the Brewers, maybe another really good team, I'm in. I'm in. I want to say I'll put him in the 40s. I just think the upside is there. I think maybe it's only 15 to 18 starts, but I think those results are going to be just too good to pass up. But let's move on. Top prospect time. Let's talk about Jesus Mod or Made. Guys, somebody sound off in the comments on the exact pronunciation. Excuse my ignorance. Don't know the pronunciation of the last name. Trust me, I am familiar with the player. He's very, very good. He got all the way up to Double-A, for the Brewers this past season in 2025. Across 3 levels, though, 285 batting average, 115 games, 81 runs, 28 doubles, 6 triples, 6 homers, 61 RBIs, 67 walks to 108 strikeouts, and 47 steals. Shortstop prospect might wind up at second base. We'll see. The speed is absolutely legitimate. The speed is at 55 grade on the 20 to 80 scale. Power is also legitimate 60 grade. Honestly, I'd give the speed a 60 grade too, but that's just me. So this is a guy who didn't show off, didn't tap into that power yet, but he's super young, 18 years old. I don't know if Jesus here makes it to the bigs in 2026. I doubt it. There's a chance he could force the Brewers' hands. You never know with these young kids. Sometimes they pan out like that, but to see him get all the way up to Double-A and still at 261 in Double-A across his first 5 games there. Love the signs. I think he'll start at Double-A in 2026. But we'll see. Definitely a name you want to keep your eyes on. Once again, Jesus Mod. It's Made or Made. Want to see what this kid can do in 2026. But folks, that is all for today. Shout out to our everydayers and new listeners making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And for your second listen, you're going to want to check out the all new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. And guys, check out the newsletter as well. Until next time, see ya.